obviously every agent is hopefully going to say, yes, I believe my clients are better off with me than they are without me. Then I would follow that up with, then you're actually doing your community a disservice by not going out and telling the community about what you can do for them.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host, who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace. Mom, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I am so excited to introduce our guest today. It is Matt O'Neill, the Director of Customer Experience at GMG Insurance. How are you doing today, Matt?
I am so excited to spend time with you ladies.
I'm so excited you agreed to come on.
Yeah, we could not be more happy to have you here with us, Matt. Super excited. It's been a while since I've seen you, right?
Yeah, I know. It's been probably a couple of years. I know a lot of things have changed for you. A lot of things have changed for me. So no better way than to reconnect in front of the public eye and compare notes on what's been going on in our lives.
I love it. You know what? Why not? I think that's a perfect way for us to reconnect. So why don't you give us a little, I would love for the people who may or may not know you, for you to tell us, how did you even come into insurance to begin with? Like, what brought you to this amazing industry?
Yeah. And we were talking before this. I am so lucky with, I think, how my career has evolved since I've been here. So to take you back, I grew up always wanting to actually be in theater. I loved being a theater kid. I split my time growing up. I was actually super introverted. I really spent a lot of time to myself, and I was a varsity swimmer as well as an theater kid, right? So I kind of played both sides of like what you would imagine in high school, and that took that through college. But I also realized that you don't make money as a thespian. So I got very lucky as I graduated. I ended up with like more of a communications background and some advertising. I really wanted to do like the whole like Mad Men advertising thing. But student loans were coming in, and an amazing now mentor of mine offered me a job, probably as like an administrator for his coaching and consulting firm right out of college. I knew nothing about insurance. I barely read my renter's policy and my auto policy that was written through the agent that my parents used for years. So I just thought, hey, my student loans are coming in. This is just a steady job. My parents don't need to worry about paying these bills now. So let's take it. Well, fast forward a couple years, what I learned was the skills that I really needed to be in front of agents, brokers, and underwriters, educating them on how to differentiate the way that they add value in the insurance space. So I really became fascinated with the organization Beyond Insurance, how they applied enterprise risk management to small and middle market businesses. It's really what Scott's claim to fame was when he ran the Addis Group. So I kind of became a young Padawan, studied all that. And where I really spent a lot of my time, because I got the most energy out of it, was really treating these types of speaking engagements and opportunities almost like a theater show, right? So to me, it didn't really matter the type of content that I was presenting in front of people. I had no insurance experience. I wasn't licensed. The most important thing for me was driving emotion when you're doing these either keynotes or full day workshops, because I think we've all sat in these types of workshops that are full day with, sometimes they're extremely credible and seasoned professionals, but they lack the ability to learn how to engage with the audience. And I think that's where my differentiator was. So I really learned what it took to drive change within agencies, within carrier teams. And then about 2 years ago, the organization was then sold to a large broker. And I used that as an opportunity to really fill in one of those blind spots that I knew I had for a long time. And that's why I joined the agency. So I left Beyond Insurance. I joined an amazing organization here called GMG Insurance. I had, as I said, zero in the field, boots on the ground insurance experience. I wasn't even licensed. So I had to actually create a role that added enough value that did not have me split my time between account management and where my skills actually were, or sales and where my skills actually were. And so I created this director of customer experience role sort of from scratch. The GMG leadership team, they bought into my visions of grandeur. I don't know if I suckered them into it or what, but now I spend my time in all aspects of the organization and really am benchmarked on customer lifetime value. So it's my job to support all aspects of the organization so that everyone within the company can do what they do best. And I can use the skills that I learned to help them succeed in their role.
Hey guys, if you're looking to improve your bottom line, allow your team to operate efficiently, and really improve that customer retention, I believe you should check out Ascend. Ascend is the all-in-one insurance payment solution. They are focused on streamlining your invoicing, premium financing, accounting, and they'll even make your carrier payables for you. They are taking agency bill and making it as easy as direct bill. That is a game changer. They integrate with all of the major AMS players, and here's the best part. It's free. There is no subscription, no cost to you. They allow your customers to pay how they want. If you are interested in improving your efficiency, go visit ascend.com/insurance refocused and let them know that we sent you. Well, you know, what I do is value independent insurance agencies, and I get to see agencies from a lot of different vantage points, and I've been doing this for many years, obviously. I think when we met, that's what I was doing. And, you know, I too had never sold a policy. I'm not a licensed agent. I've never sold a policy. And I actually lead with that information when I speak, because I don't want to ever give anyone the impression that I've done what they do. You know what I'm saying? And so I get it. And actually, I never intend to sell insurance. I'm okay with being a business expert, helping them become better business owners, right? But from my vantage point, as I get to work with agents across the country, you know, when I first started this, it was almost unheard of to have someone on staff that was focused solely on marketing or solely on data or solely on anything other than selling or servicing inside an agency. I love that you recently wrote this article that talks about why you should have that role. Not only that, but then how do you compensate that role, and what are the metrics to measure that role? So many agents struggle with, how do I put this non-revenue, I'm going to use these in air quotes, non-revenue, because we all know marketing drives revenue, but let's just go for a moment and say non-producer and non-CSR role into my agency. How do I justify that? I would love for you to expand on that, because if someone hasn't read your article, they're missing out, my friend. They are just missing out.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And as I said, I really want to create a position where I was not tied to any particular book of business. So I personally do not manage a book of business. I am not required to go out and produce business. So I had to really think strategically about how I can add the most value. And value can come in a lot of forms. It can come in employee retention, talent acquisition. It could be brand awareness. It could be working through sales. So I looked at what I felt based on my experience historically within the industry as some of the biggest challenges for an agency and their ability to grow. And I said, if I can address just their top 3 to 5 concerns and have that keen focus, I believe that that will add enough value, because oftentimes within these agencies, what I observed is it's the agency leader who is often still the producer that is in charge of trying to drive these change. Well, they're going to be more successful being the main breadwinner of the organization, or it's the top performing salesperson that becomes the sales leader. Well, they might be good at sales, but it doesn't mean that they're good at leadership. Or it could be the marketing person who has to split their time between creating marketing content, but is still responsible for some sort of small book of business because the agency owner, unfortunately, isn't seeing that ROI from that role. So if I can just bring all of that together and say, let's take all of those pain points and give it to one person to tackle all of those issues, now everyone is working and their peak performance. And that's really where my experience lays. So I think that it's an interesting position for me to be in. I'm benchmarked on new business retention as well as cross-selling. And everyone within the agency knows that they can come to me or I can come to them with new ideas, out of the box considerations. And I'm not there to like split commissions with anyone. Like that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just here to support. So it's been a very fun role. I think it, as I said, I think it really takes a lot of these nuanced ideas that agencies want to incorporate and just gives it to one point person who just manages it behind the scenes for the entire organization to run as they normally have historically.
Yeah, I absolutely love that the two of the top 5 challenges that you had outlined in that article were marketing and branding, because I agree with you. I think historically, those two things have been things that agency owners don't think are that important because, right, they don't exactly lead to the sale. They kind of help with it, but they aren't the thing that makes the sale. And I think we are at a time when people in the industry are starting to realize how important that is. And especially I've been to a couple conferences, specifically INC's Young Agent Conference, the 2022, was it 2022? I don't know. The last one that they had. It was all about, I mean, we had Danny Kimball, who I believe you know
Uh-huh.
very well.
I worked with her when she
Yes.
started at
Yes, she
O'Neill.
is amazing.
Wonderful woman.
We had Aaron Gordon as a speaker, who, I mean, talk about branding. Hello. And then we had Bradley and a couple other people as well. And it was just such a great hub for here's how marketing can directly impact your agency. But the other thing that I kept hearing over and over was your agency owner's probably not going to buy into this, and you're going to have to convince them. Here's how I did it, so you can do it too. And I
Yeah.
think that that is so hard to have this kind of up and coming hot topic that a lot of people in the industry are realizing is so important and so huge for your agency, but having to convince someone to do it. And I thought it was completely refreshing to see that directly in your job description. Can you talk a little bit about why you included it in there and the reasons that you think those two things are so important?
Yeah. So from my experience, I believe that many agency owners understand that there is value in
Mm-hmm.
marketing and brand awareness. They understand that that's a box they have to check to be relevant in today's, business world. Where I think a lot of organizations in our industry really miss the mark, however, is they don't know how to engage the customer and prospect with shareable, emotionally engaging content. I've seen a lot of really wonderful, well intentioned people in our industry that create very informative pieces of content around claims, policies, everything, and everything can be tied back to I can sell you a policy because of this piece of marketing. But if we look at any other service based industry, and this is where I spend a lot of my time trying to study how to differentiate the marketing tactics within our industry, because I don't know if I've seen many people that are hitting like out of the park home runs in terms of marketing, even though we all talk about it. Hiscox Insurance is probably the one that I've seen that is most powerful. They have like 40 some thousand followers on Facebook. And what they did was they actually went out to small businesses and they just filmed the business owner talking about their business. And to me, that's so exciting. And that translates so nicely into, let's compare it to the real estate industry, right? A couple of years ago, before Bravo put a $1 million listing, it's just real estate agents just walking into an empty house and showing people what that could be. But because of $1 million listing, it put real estate agents on the map as something that can be sexy and fun. And to me, in the insurance industry, think about all of the businesses that these agency owners are working with. They have a Rolodex of really cool companies that make really cool things or provide really interesting services. And so I believe that the future of marketing within the industry to hit home runs, you really have to go out and storytell with these business owners and these leaders and these high net worth families. And so that's one of the things I started doing at GMG is I go out to our clients. I think sometimes people might be scared of showcasing their clients. I literally go out to our clients' companies, have them do a tour, and I talk about loss control and risk management and what we would think of from a risk advisor perspective, not about the policies, not about insuring it, which I think is much more engaging because people see these companies that are in their community and they get a behind the scenes tour. I also think that's really important because as AI continues to integrate into our everyday life, information is going to become a commodity. So if you're creating content and marketing around stuff that I can type into Chat GPT to get the answer, your marketing content is not going to resonate because it's going to just be easier for business owners to find that information. So how do you change your marketing? Well, you have to be emotionally engaging and you need to produce content that you say, if I saw this on another industry's Facebook page, would I share this with my
This
followers?
is a perfect example of how technology is not going to replace people. Like, listen, independent insurance agencies, when I came into this industry, I'll never forget it. I was at a Christmas party where, you know, they all come up, we do awards, and one of the good old boys that I lovingly called, he said, you know, all I can say is 20 years ago, they said the independent insurance agency was going to be extinct. And I am happy to tell you that that's not the case. And I think there's still people who think like our channel's getting threatened because technology is happening or robotics are coming in or whatever. And what people miss is human connection in a industry where things are very complex. I mean, what you just talked about, going to a business and talking about the risk that you see there and the advice that they need will never, ever be automated. But the random stuff that you put out there on, you know, content about things that are not human connection or not your expertise can absolutely be commoditized. So I love that you use that as an example because I think that's the key is finding how to enhance what we do, not replace what we do. Right.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with what
Yeah.
you're saying.
And also and make it become predictable. So you also talked about not just reacting, but also making these things be that you can be predictive or be anticipate needs. Can you expand on that a bit more?
Yeah. So for a long time, when I would go out and I would speak with agents and underwriters, or just about anyone in the industry, I would always ask them one simple question: when does someone need what you're
Mm.
selling? And what do you think I would get 9 times out of 10? What do you think most people in this industry believe? When do they need? When does the insured need what we're selling? They'd often
At
say when?
renewal?
At renewal or at the time
Oh,
of a
there you
claim,
go. Yeah.
right? Yeah, right. So if I ask an agent or underwriter, when does the insured actually know what we're selling? It's at the time of a claim. Well, if we think about the claims experience and being a customer experience professional, I'm trying to think about how do I elicit emotion and what are those customer touch points within that customer experience journey? Well, a claim is usually costly for the insured. It's going to change their rates. It elicits negative emotion. And I don't know if you've heard stories about severe claim scenarios, but it can be life altering. It could be a death, it could be an amputation, it could be, loss of home, loss of property, loss of assets, could be shutting down the business, and that becomes a large ripple effect within the community as employees now need to find a new job, the owner needs to find new things. So I think that we're just telling the wrong story, which is why it's challenging to tell a story in general. A lot of people in our industry believe that our job begins at the time of a claim. The claims process is extremely important, and I'm not undervaluing that whatsoever. But it is more important for so many of the people that we're protecting every single day, whether it's the family or the organization, to have someone that can reduce the likelihood that a claim will even happen in the first place. If you start thinking about your role as an advisor to the insured as being proactive in terms of risk management and educating the consumer on things that they need to become safer and have less claim frequency and severity, it's going to help the insured. It's going to help the agency because you're going to increase your customer lifetime value, but it's also going to help the carriers as well. The reason they're in hard markets is because of claim frequency and severity going up in so many different market segments. If we can use their loss control teams to minimize claim frequency and severity, now underwriters will have more underwriter flexibility. They'll have more appreciation for the agency. And again, like, it just helps out everyone in general. And that's the purity of what insurance really is supposed to be. But unfortunately, for a long time, I think we're just telling the wrong story as an industry. And it's such a simple mind shift, but I think it's a really important one that we really need to reckon with ourselves.
We keep referencing this article, and the article, let me go up here. The article is a journey to the CX synergy, right? The customer experience synergy. If you listen to a lot of people in our industry, they actually believe if you do not have a renewal strategy, if you do not have a customer experience strategy, you're going to miss out. The fact is, agencies have a 90% renewal rate, or they strive to have a 90% renewal rate, right? But they do it without a strategy a lot of the time. Those that are actually becoming very intentional about that strategy and are measuring what that is will find that sometimes they're not at the 90%, they're actually far below that, and they need to be intentional about it, right? So I think what you're talking about will become more and more important. And certainly as we're sitting in a hard market, it is more important than it ever has been, at least in my experience in insurance thus far, correct? So, yeah. So, talk to me about a particular example of this team that didn't have a director of customer experience prior. They came to you with something and they basically said, give it to Matt and see what he'll do with it. Can you give me like an example of one of those things that every agency owner can relate to really wrap their head around what would this role look like in my agency if I wanted to tread down this path?
Yeah. So as I said, I'm not responsible for any particular book of business. So there needs to be a way to benchmark my personal success. So when I joined, we used a methodology called traction. If you've heard of the book, I know many agencies out there are beginning to implement a process like that or their own version of traction. What I adopted for GMG was kind of their rock analogy. So every quarter I would come up with 3 to 5 rocks that I would execute on, and usually always expand it beyond that. But we said, what are the 3 to 5 core things that this quarter, if we could hit a home run in terms of our customer experience, that would help move the needle for all departments? And that can be anywhere from marketing to sales to service to cross-selling. Now, one thing that many agencies, I believe, as you said, they believe that customer experience is incredibly important, but how many agencies actually have structured customer experience meetings in their agency? Probably almost none of them, right? So what we do now is once a quarter, we have a customer experience meeting that I lead. There's someone from at least one representative from all departments. So one service team member, one new business person, the agency leaders in there. And that's really where I begin to present these rocks, these opportunities. And that's an opportunity. As I said, I support the company. It's not the other way around. They're not supporting my initiatives. It's my job to support their goals and visions. So I listen to them, and then I come up with the ideas that I think are important, and they can solicit feedback. So a simple example for GMG, when I first joined, I did employee interviews with every single person within the agency because I knew that it was not my job to come in and start using my experience as a consultant to change all the processes within the company. The company's been around since I think it's like 1930s or something like that. So they're doing stuff that works. So it's my job to understand what works and then where are the opportunities for improvement. A simple thing that we integrated into the company is their benefits department was actually through an acquisition. And they kind of felt like they were still kind of managing their own processes. And it just felt like it was a bit disjointed from the personal and commercial side of the business. So I sat down with the benefit team. I understand the processes, the sales process, the service process that they used. And then I tried to marry it with the service processes that the commercial department uses, and then incorporated some of my suggestions as well. So now a lot of the communication that goes out in terms of renewal, in terms of servicing the accounts or creating structured service plans, all of that has a similar look and feel. So if we were to cross-sell commercial to employee benefit client or vice versa, the experience does not feel disjointed just because they're two different departments operating in two different ways or with two different parts of the insured's organization.
Yeah, it's super incredible.
I really like how you put a highlight, and I wrote this down in my notes, that like the first step to the change and the change in processes that you recognize when you go into an agency is you first have to understand what's working, and then you can go and change the process. And I think that that is a really important step for someone like you, me, my mom, who we don't actually work in the industry. Like we don't, have an agency. I know you said you were licensed, but like I'm not licensed. And I actually went on Jason Cass's podcast a while ago, and I said I don't work in the industry. I work for the industry, right? Because I've never been that person in an agency who's doing the work. And so I'm never going to fully understand everything that goes into that. I can do my best, right? I'm doing this podcast so I can learn. I read people's newsletters. I read articles. I talk to agents. I go to conferences, but I'm not the one actually doing the work. So I really like how you said that, that's something that you have to do before you can elicit that change.
Yeah. And Lindsay, your role is similar to what I try to do here at GMG, right? So, like I said, the agency leaders could do a lot of what I am doing right now, but they're busy working on, employee engagement or new business production or, any of the other leadership aspects, HR, right? There's a million hats that these owners are trying to run. And agency owners, they're getting a million emails from clients and prospects on top of that. So like you, it's my job to really listen to the team here at the agency and then understand, based on my personal experience, or as you did, like go out and start listening to what's happening. And I oftentimes find it more valuable to look at other industries and bring tactics and strategies from other service-based industries into our industry, because I believe that a lot of people in our industry are using very similar strategies or tactics, or we're just viewed as a commodity going, working 90 days before the renewal. And that's not what I want to do. I really want to try and enhance the experience. So let's find out what's working in these other industries and replicate it in our industry so it feels new and different. And we're changing up the way that we're delivering experiences in our industry.
So, Matt, for the people who are listening to you, I love that I'm not going to look inside the industry to see how to innovate. I'm going to look outside the industry. Talk to me about which industries you focused on that you see the biggest similarities, ones that maybe other people should check out.
Yeah. So the number one industry that I try to mimic a lot of what we're doing is off of real estate. There's so many big brokers. I was lucky enough a couple years ago to go to, like, when Gary Vaynerchuk did a program in down in Miami. So I was there, and Ryan Serhan actually spoke about something very similar, where he didn't grow up wanting to be a real estate agent, but what he wanted to do is he loved being on TV. And so he used real estate as kind of his background and used it as storytelling. And that's how he built his personal brand. So to me, that really hit home. And as you start looking at a lot of these other real estate brokers that have very large followings online, all they're doing is showcasing their personal brand on something that is otherwise a commodity, right? Selling a home is just trying to sell four walls and a pool, right? And so again, like why can't we do something very similar? Or even on TikTok, there's a ton of lawyers that have made legal seem interesting, right? They give advice that is not, it's not intended for legal use, but it is just there for educational purposes. Well, again, why can't we do that? We work with so many cool companies and individuals and families. And all they're doing is just communicating across these platforms. And what they have learned that our industry, I think, is still trying to understand is how to leverage the platform in its native use to connect with the people that are most frequently using that particular platform.
So I'm going to share a quick story with you because I think part of it is independent agents don't give themselves enough credit. They don't understand how unique their role is. So I got in an Uber. I'm just going to go down a rabbit hole for just a minute
I love
because
it.
it's
No.
it just fits so clearly with what you said. So I got in an Uber with a really good friend of mine, and He's an independent agent. He's a scratch agency. Someone I admire a great deal. You probably know him. His name's Seth Zaremba. Do you know Seth?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I know of him. Yes.
So we get in this Uber together, and he strikes up a conversation with the Uber driver, of course. And he asked, like, is this what you do for a living? Do you do anything else? And he said, I actually am an elevator mechanic. I work in a machine shop for elevators. So immediately Seth jumps into, well, do you use this type of machinery or this type of machinery? And I'm like, what? He knew how to relate to this guy on a very deep level about a topic I know zero about. But because he's insured some kind of machine shop that this guy obviously was familiar with, I mean, the guy lit up. He was like, someone knows my language. This is amazing. And he's, talking about it. And I'm literally sitting here in awe, like, are you kidding me right now? That's what's crazy. Like, they know so much about so many businesses because you have to understand a business in order to write their risk. You know what I mean? And I don't think you give yourself enough credit how impressive that is to be that diverse in your knowledge, to be able to relate to anyone you meet. You've probably written some kind of insurance that connects the two of you. And so, your idea about going out and talking to business owners and talking about what that means and demonstrating the value you bring to that business, not in a direct way, but kind of like, hey, this is what I see in your experience, is so critically important. But he didn't even think that was unique, that he
You
could
know,
relate.
yeah, and I think you're also hitting on something that is also commonly overlooked. The most successful agents that I'm aware of have a natural curiosity for the people that they serve. If you talk to any $1 million producer, yes, of course they're incredibly knowledgeable, right? They've spent the time learning about industries, learning about insurance, risk management. There maybe a specific niche, but they have a natural curiosity for learning about other people because that's the only way that they're going to be able to write the right policies or offer the right recommendations, and that's why they're able to produce so much business. But the moment you put a camera on them, they like
Freeze.
get so scared. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Right. But it's like, just do what you're doing anyway. Just, showcase it, because what you do and the hard work you go like behind the scenes, the team going out, negotiating with underwriters, doing policy reviews, maybe even, touring properties, like all of that stuff can be really interesting and engaging. But people I feel like for some reason don't offer that level of transparency around all of the nitty gritty. So people just think it's policy pushing, it's quoting, but it's so much more. So there's the people are out there that can deliver on this type of emotional, engaging content, but they need to just be aware of the native platforms that they're building this content for and go out and just try it.
Yeah, I know. I think it's the humble nature of some of the people as well. Like, it's their second nature to care and to be interested and be inquisitive. I wished I had a camera in the back of that Uber because I was like floored. I'm thinking, he's a person that can connect with someone in moments time, but it's a gift. It's a true gift, and I think that's the differentiator, right?
Yeah. Well, so one thing it's funny you said that, like agents being humble. So when I used to speak with agents, I used to ask them when they felt hesitant about doing these types of marketing practices, I used to ask the agent, do you feel like your clients are better off with you than they are without you? Right. And obviously every agent is hopefully going to say, yes, I believe my clients are better off with me than they are without me. Then I would follow that up with, then you're actually doing your community a disservice by not going out and telling the community about what you can do for them. Because every day that you don't go out and tell your story about how the community is better off with you and your agency than they are without you, you are running the risk of that business owner not being properly protected, that employee not being reminded about the safety protocols within the company, or that family reminding them on safety practices to keep their family safe. So it almost should be your mission to go out and tell as many people as you can about your processes and how you're able to deliver value that protects the community so that they don't have claims in the future, and you can't guarantee that they won't have any claims, but if you can reduce the likelihood that that will happen, you are protecting the community. And that's really what this industry is really all about.
100%. 100%. So my favorite question to close with of all time is, what advice would you give yourself if you were just starting in this industry in the role that you are now? It's a hard one, I know.
um,
Everyone's always like,
yeah, starting in the industry, I would probably say, be a sponge. I think that's incredibly important. I learned from someone a long time ago about your professional career in general, and it has sat with me throughout my entire career. So I'm 34 now. So the way someone described your professional life is, in your 20s, it's almost like you're a freshman in high school, right? You're really just bouncing around. You think you're big and brash, you're hot stuff, right? But there's the seniors that know what they're doing, right? But you bring a different perspective, and then you get into your 30s and you're in your sophomore year. So now you have a better understanding of maybe what classes you're going to be taking, what specialization. You have a little bit more understanding of the ropes of the high school that you're in, the professional high school. And then in your 40s is your junior year, and now you're really into the full swing of things. You have your full momentum, and then you get in your 50s, and now you're a senior, and you just don't care, right? Because you're getting ready to move on to the next great thing. And so to me, that's always sat with me. So if I went back to my freshman year of professional growth, I would say just be a sponge and don't be afraid to take advice from the people that are older than you and wiser than you, because while you may not agree with it, there is a reason that they are giving you those recommendations. And it's your job to take those recommendations, study them, do your own research, and then make your own valid conclusion based off of everything that you've come up with. Don't think that you're going into this industry knowing everything, or that you're coming up with the next great idea, because it probably has been tried before. And maybe you just need to figure out your own spin on it to make it actually successful.
Yeah, get in there and figuring out what's working. Don't try and just be radical about it. Learn from other people and actually get that foundation in place, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, Matt, I am super excited that we got reconnected publicly. How about that? Like
Yes. I love it.
no
I love
better
it.
way, right? And I
Yeah.
am super excited to see the content that you're putting out there. I think it's incredibly timely. Agents everywhere need to be thinking about, how do I have a customer experience strategy, a retention strategy? How do I get my story out there in a meaningful and connected way, not just pushing content to push content? And I think, you're definitely driving that conversation and showing it by example inside the agency you're in today. So thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Carey, thank you. I mean, like you, I think we're just trying to help the industry, right? There's so much upside here. So like I said, if anyone wants to digest that information, you were mentioning, like, I have a monthly article that comes out on LinkedIn. So feel free to hop on there. I really am an open book. That was part of my agreement with the GMG team, that I can share kind of the experiments that I'm doing here that they allow me to play around with. So I just want to help people change the perception of this industry. It's something I learned very early on, that there's a lot of opportunity, right? And sometimes it just comes down to the right storytelling.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Yeah. Thank you, Lindsay. Great to meet you too.
Nice to meet you. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.